going to talk about the creation of the button box. And the board that we're going to use for that box can be used for more than just button box work, but also can be used to do other neat stuff as well. So first, let me show you the board itself so you can see it close up here. And what comes with the kit. This is a complete kit. The only thing it didn't come with is the instructions. So I had to go find those. Alright, so let's... And I didn't find very much. In fact, I did find something where a guy was talking about the board and talking about using it with true analog features. But let me show you what you get with the kit, because this is going to be something you're going to be working with. This is the board. It's a USB board. It has plugs in, you can see, where a lot of jumpers. It looks very intimidating. And you can see in the back, there's this little itty bitty chip bundle glob. Not very expensive, but it just looks cute, but it doesn't really explain how to wire it, but we'll get to that in a second. Then it comes with the matching USB cable, and it has the plug, and you can see it has a strain relief on it, already assembled. So the strain relief is already on the cable, which is kind of a pitch, because I really was hoping that they wouldn't have done this, because now getting this into the box I wanted to put it into is going to mean I'm going to have to make some design changes. Yes. We haven't even figured out what buttons or switches we're going to use. That's going to be the next topic. So clearly that is the issue. Then, to help you along, you have your package of connectors and cables for everything. I mean, this has got the joystick, I believe. Yes, it has a joystick, and it has these little 1/8 of an inch little clips. So, it don't see the so-called kit for the joystick wiring, but that is the pinouts for it, and if I was to use the analog control, I would have to make my own custom cable anyway. So that's the first thing. Now, so since we obviously have got to assemble this board, the first thing you're going to be asking yourself is, Michele, what next? Because what are we going to do with it? And how are we going to use it? So that's what we're going to discuss next. Okay? So let us commence with our next discussion. So let's switch over to the screen here. Here you have the board itself. And the board itself shows the diagram of all the jumper positions. Clearly for our application, we're not going to use a lot of these. You got 12 buttons. That means your button box can have 12 buttons or switches. Some controls offer switch mode where you can actually have the switch will toggle it on and off, and some only work with buttons. So if you're really worried about, well, gee, I want it to work guaranteed 100%, then you're probably going to want to deal with the buttons, okay? As far as the other thing, the Sunwad joystick control. We'll get to that later. But actually, you also got your up, your down, your right, your left. These also can be used as inputs as well. So if you are, let me get closer so I can highlight this on the screen. I don't know if I can that, but I'll try. You got these here. Let's see, the guy was showing how he could hack these boards to make these more of a true analog. Okay, so he's talking about how you can change resistors. I don't need to change resistors right now. We're going to leave those alone. Because first of all, this is a really, really neat little board. So we're going to be probably using these connections down here from button 1 to button 12. And then, of course, the mode, digital, analog, turbo, clear, auto fire. We're not going to be using those. So that means your button box can have 12 buttons. Okay. Now, obviously, a push button is simple because it's going to be easy to understand. Now, also we have to deal with something else, which is just as much as important as the buttons is, of course, the key switch, which I'm going to show you right now. We're going to talk about the key switch. And also, I'm going to show you the buttons that I have chosen. So, before I'm going to cut up the box, which is a pretty nice box. I mean, it's a beautiful ABS box, okay? I want to make sure to decide how I want this board to be mounted, how I want it to, what I want it to control, because I've got 10 buttons and I got 20 switches. Now, you might say is, well, why don't you install 5 of, like 2 buttons or 2 switches, and of course the start switch, which is key switch, is right here, has to go somewhere too. So let me show you this. This key switch is friggin' huge. And so you can take the key out too. So it's an ignition switch. So you got a key. See, you got your key. I'm gonna switch over to the other camera so you can see it better. It might be hard to see this one. This camera doesn't zoom in that well. Okay, you got a key. Okay, and this is the key right here. Okay, so this is the key. This is the key switch, and just like all ignition switch, when the switch is in off mode, the key is removable. In any other mode, the switch is not. The thing that is most noticeable about this key switch is how heavy it is to turn. It's not exactly easy. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not the easiest. So clearly, to mount this into a plastic box like I've got, you would say, why don't you just mount it like this? Well, you can't, because the switch is too big. I have seen on these button boxes where the switch, also on the Kenworth K100E, the ignition switch is mounted on top of the switch panel on the actual truck. So it would make sense to drill a hole, which is, let's see, how big is the hole here? Let's see, it looks like it's about, it is about an inch in diameter. And so, yeah, it's a pretty big nut. Okay, so it's a pretty big nut. It definitely looks like a 7/8 inch, and you'll notice that there is specifically to prevent the switch from twisting is a type of a ring that you can install or a cutting in plastic so that the switch will not twist. Otherwise, it's just going to be a matter of getting a lock washer and just lock washing it down to an inch of its life to hold this to your switch. So, therefore, the switch is a big issue. Now, the reason I'm not sure what to do with the switch is, well, there is diagrams that show how to modify the file, the controls.sii file, so that you can have a really neat effect. The problem is, it's just this can be kind of a bit of a problem. Okay, it's not undoable, but it is a bit of a problem. I love the idea of a key switch anyway. Maybe I might use the key switch, but I might use it for a different way. In other words, I might just go ahead and mount it, but then only the way it's going to turn on power is if you turn on the power, or maybe I might just forgo the key switch completely, use it for another project. I don't know. That's something I could do. I don't have to rush out. What I need to do is I gotta pick up some ring terminals at the hardware store because these don't have ring terminals with them. They just got the nuts. So I gotta get the nuts and with the ring terminals to install with the nuts. I didn't pay a lot for the switch. I think I bought it on Amazon for like $10. It is a real truck switch. It's not a cute little decorative thing that some switchboards have, okay? So this and this are the two gotta be built with projects first. So now what about the switches? Okay, I'm just gonna show you some of these. Okay. Because I got 20 toggles and I have 10 push buttons. Because I plan to use some of these for other projects. These are the little switches. Now, they're single pull, single throw. Okay? They're cute little switches, they're cute little things. I mean, they just work, okay? They're not fancy. They just got connections. Now, remember what I told you. The problem is that the system comes with those things, with those 1/8-inch diameters switches, okay? And that's great, but let's take a look at this one now. These are the actual buttons. These, I think I won't have it spilling all over the floor. Okay, here we go. This is the button, okay? So you push it down. So imagine you got 10 of these, right? So you're probably saying to yourself, well, why not mount the buttons and then assign different applications to American Truck Simulator? Well, that's what I was going to do, but I was going to combine it with switches and buttons. And unfortunately, that got a little more interesting because now we find out that you had 12 positions on the board, and plus you can use the joystick mode, right, down, right, and left, and you can set up these switches here, these digital controls for the volume controls, or you can use the actual USB interface to wire up, down, left, and 5 volts DC, because it brings a 5 volt to ground. So then you could have volume controls. I bought volume controls too, so we can have 2 volume controls. It doesn't tell me what the resistance is. But and then I said to myself, "Is you know what? You got enough stuff here to make an actual game controller instead of a button box, because do you really need all those buttons on your control? You just installed the Eaton Polar control on your shifter, which means that now your shifter has freed up more space, right? Actually, no, we got this better box. I'm gonna put everything in here. Well, yeah. Okay, let me just sort through this stuff real quick here. Okay, so let's just sort this out because I got so much stuff in here. So what's the best way to go? Well, I didn't talk about every the other parts I bought here, but I am going to show you those in a second because this is kind of neat. Alright, so, and I was trying to see if I can put everything in one box. and keep it nice and tidy. Cause yeah, pretty much. Yeah, right here. You're missing a board. Missing. You got 2 of those modules, remember? Yeah. I don't even know where everybody but one. I think they fell on the floor. Oh, there's one of them. There's the one, okay. It's the same as the other one. And we have the other one on the floor too. There's the key switch. You know, Amazon, if you actually had decided to, or actually, part of it's my fault actually, because when I bought this, I actually ordered the stuff in 2 shipments, and then, instead of ordering all at once. Okay, so, where's the other board? Oh, here it is. Okay. So, what this board was designed for is something called Game Simulator, to run arcade games on a PC. Okay. And it almost all fits in there. Almost does. Yeah. So this comes from Linky, right? But you'll notice it doesn't actually come out with a manual. I kind of wonder why they didn't put a manual in the box, even though it was a printout. Now, the other thing is that there's a button for analog digital. So I'm trying to see if I can cram this into as small a space as I can. And this is going to be very, very... Well, that's about as good as it's going to get. Yeah, okay. So what I need to do, first thing I'm going to do next is I got to decide on the question about, 1, do you want buttons or do you want switches? Do you want, do you want to have, say, 5 buttons and 5 switches? Oh, you love to shove things in paint spaces, don't you? They don't fit. I know. Okay. Well, okay. So let's go back and look at the board here. So, first of all, the board has got a couple features I could really think of. I bought 2 of them, by the way. So, and the reason I bought 2 is in case I wanted to use it like a controller, like I said, for maybe playing games on the Mac. Everything in it is in my car. Okay, so let me have a sip of my coffee before it disappears. So you have, assuming you didn't use the joystick positions, up, down, right, left. Yeah, right. That's gonna really happen. Probably not. So let's go to what else I bought, since I mentioned other things. So we have our potentiometer package. Yes, potentiometers of all sizes. Okay, so that's what it comes with. It comes with knobs, comes with the nuts, the washers, and the several controls, 2 of each. Okay, we bought a PC board mounting kit explained screws package. These are all screws to mount the PC board into the keys. And I believe there's also some washers in here as well. So, in short, this is going to allow me to mount the board where I want it, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. The last thing that's in the bottom box is PC shrink tubing. Okay. So let's talk about how would you mount the where would you mount the board? Okay. Since I have two of those boards, we're gonna talk about where are we gonna mount the first board. There's a second board. It don't really need two for this board. You know how I always buy two of everything, right? You know. So now I can mount it right here. Now pretend this is inside the box. I'm not gonna take it out of the cellophane yet. Okay, so the board, using the little mounting tabs, we're gonna mark the box with a little marker, or even maybe using my use a nail. But I wanted to use a marker with a piece of masking tape. So I got to get some masking tape because I don't have any. And then maybe an 1/8 inch drill bit to mount to drill, and then mount. There's a 3mm screw, so as long as it's at least 3mm in size, I know 1/8 of an inch is pretty close. It's got to be a little close, but can't be exactly right at that size. Okay? So that means now you could have on the other side of the box here, here will be the front of the box. I know, gotta go for the industrial liquid screws, right? Okay. So this is gonna be inside the box, and then the jumpers that came with it are going to be plugged in down here. Okay. The cord is gonna come out one side. Now, if I put the key switch on the top, it really should come out the side, because otherwise it's just gonna look really stupid with the key switch on the on the top, because it just is. Okay. So the first question is, key switch would count as a switch and a button, so therefore, yeah, you really can say you got a switch and you got a button. Okay. So that means that 2 out of the 12 controllers or buttons are in use. Okay. Now, like I said, I'm really excited about the whole project. But I mean, I want to make sure I don't make a mess of it all, because it's so easy to do that, to cut things wrong, and the next thing you know, you've ruined the whole thing. And I don't want to do this. Also, we need to decide which features do we really need in the game. For example, do you really need to raise and lower the trunk during trailer axles? Normally, no. But then again, it depends, because sometimes 4-wheel drive is nice, right? Especially if you're in a situation where, like I am right now in the game, I'm driving on snow, I can at least go, okay, so that could be, so button 1 and 2 could go to the key switch, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 can go to other controls, plus the up, down, right, and left can go to controls as well, so they can go to buttons. The analog options, really, okay, this turbo button thing, auto fire, turbo button, you're not going to need that, but it's going to need, it has those features if you wanted to use that. The mode, digital and analog, that's kind of confusing, because what is it defaulting to? I mean, if you're only using digital controller, say like an Atari 2600 controller, it's just digital, right? That's just the old Atari 2600 joystick. It's digital. It's not analog, so it doesn't need. But if you're using the paddles, those are analog. Okay, so the paddles are analog, and the other controller is digital. And then, so I'm just looking at all of this stuff and thinking to myself is, gee, what should I do? What can I do? Now, how can I make what's the better way to make this thing work well? I don't know. So the most important thing you need to do before you do anything is this. You need to ask yourself, what controls do you want to have in the button box? Can they be toggle switches, or are they only push button? If they're only push button support, you need to keep that in mind when you use them. If they're toggle switches and push button support, and American Truck Simulator allows you to set using toggle switches, for example, lowering trailer axle, then you can set the button. If you're doing something like trailer brakes, turning on interior lightings, opening and closing windows, those are more likely going to be push buttons. And so for that reason, you're not going to be wanting to have toggle switches. But interior light, you might want to have a toggle switch. Turning on a radio might be a toggle switch. Some people tried that with mixed results. Okay, radio on, radio off. Okay. But then you have to deal with modifying your controls SSI file or SII file, and that gets kind of scary. So if you don't want to go with the modifying your your SII file, it's just easier just to lower everything as buttons, and then unless the configuration tool shows you how to set that up. Same thing with the key switch. Where are you going to stick that? Well, you can stick it anywhere, okay? But, it's hard to turn. It's not like it's, like it's a featherweight. Now, also the fact is because it is going into a plastic box, do you need to reinforce it further? Do you need to install a lock washer? How are you going to mount it so it doesn't become loose as a goose and start turning all over the place? That's just something I have to figure out. So that's the next step. Let's find out how we can program that so that we can make the best use with what we have. And I do have to go get a drill bit tomorrow and some masking tape, and then I can begin the process of configuring. Right. So what you should do, and I'm going to do, is I'm going to write down from the configuration software of American Truck Simulator the type of things I want to control, and then I'm going to set that up to match. So since I have ATS on this side of the computer as well, I can go ahead and the same thing controls on my desk here, and I can look on my Mac and see which controls I want to use. I also can always basically on the Mac, as long as I plug it in, as long as it recognizes the board, as I can go ahead and I can start playing around with the buttons on the controller and see what I want to do with it as well. So programming the controller is the next step. And then we can begin the process of putting it together. Now, as far as I mentioned about the analog controls, the fact is that this does not come with the analog cable. I'm going to have to come up with a 5-pin plug. I know the kind of plug it is. I've seen it. I use it. I use the 4-pin USB version for this camera. So I think it's an X2 connector. Or I can buy the original recommended joystick, analog joystick, and plug it in as well. So after all, it was designed for a joystick. So yes, there is a joystick with a connector if you want to build your own, which is not a bad idea actually. Well, anyway, that's that for now. So I just wanted to show you where we stand. Okay? Bye-bye.